Why, hello everyone. Tonight we begin YouTube Q&A. Well, basically it's very similar to our all access. So if you enjoy what we're doing here tonight, you should head on over to dailywire.com/subscribe and use code DW50. Don't navigate from this one. Go to open a new tab and go to dailywire.com/subscribe and code DW50 for 50% off our memberships. That is the best deal of the year. So make sure that you go do that. Like, it ends as of 3 hours from now or so, Eastern time. So make sure that you go check it out right now. Go do it right now. We answer all of your questions here. And your reminder, we do a lot of important stuff. We need your membership. We need your help. So here is our full-scale NPR style appeal to you. You will help sponsor our investigative team, which basically shifted the grounds in Loudoun County and made a big difference in that Virginia race. You're going to help us shape the culture by picking up folks like Gina Carano after they are canceled by the left-wing culture mavens over there. And we're going to create a new and better culture. And you give us the wherewithal to be able to do things like challenge the Biden vax mandate on behalf of literally 80 million Americans. So make sure that you go help us out right now by getting that membership right now. It really is important, and I appreciate all the people who are already members. By the way, if you're a member, you normally get to ask questions like we're going to be doing tonight over at the All Access. Again, code DW50. Go ahead and open up a brand new tab and make sure that the magic happens for you. Just had to mute my phone. Alrighty, let's see. Let's see. Wow, this is moving soups fast. Okay, there we go. Where is the All Access on Daily Wire? Well, if you're a member, then you get to see it on Daily Wire. Otherwise, you can't really see it, is sort of the thing. Okay. I know you're a watch fan and collector. If you had a 3-watch collection for life, what would you choose? Oh, man. Are we talking the ones that I currently own, or are we talking the ones that are sort of grail watches? So if you're talking grail watches, you have to always have like a baseline Rolex Submariner. I know this is very class-oriented stuff, right? These are the questions that people desperately love, are the questions about watches and horology. But it would be like a Rolex Sub. You'd probably go with a Patek Nautilus, like 5712, and maybe a Royal Oak. Oh, that's fairly generic. I do like Lange and so on. Now, do I own a lot of that stuff? I own some of that stuff. We got the Sub. Tonight, by the way, we are wearing the James Bond Omega watch. Ooh, yeah, it's a nice watch. Okay, let's see. Do I watch anime? No, I don't. People are asking for the gun show. Okay, we're going to give you a quick sample of the gun show, but very, very quick, because that's kind of our OnlyFans, guys. I mean, if you actually want to see the full gun show, then you have to become a subscriber, where I get fully not naked and basically wear these shirts. And it's kind of the same thing. You just get more of that, but like for longer. Can I get a hug? Asked Blockbuster Video. No, you can't get a hug. I don't even know you, you creep. Michael says, rap is music. Listen to Tupac and Biggie. Nah. I will stick with my perspective that rock... You know what? How about this? Rap is music, but it is bad. Can I do that? You already know my argument about rap. Although I will admit that my WAP slaps harder than anyone else's version of that particular so-called song. Do I think that the change in the CEO of Twitter will end with the hard crackdown on conservative positions? I think they're already doing it. I think that that's going to become more and more not only possible, but reality. I think they're going to start doing that more and more at all the social media companies at this point, unless Republicans take back the House and the Senate in 2022, in which case all these people know where their bread is buttered, and they are going to do what they can to avoid the scrutiny of the people in power. So if you put conservatives in power, then they might loosen up a little bit, because they are all driven by who has the power at any given time. Hanukkah Sameach. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it is kind of annoying that we're together on Hanukkah. My kids are already asleep. We already had a beautiful Hanukkah earlier. We lit all the candles with all the kids. My wife got Hanukkah PJs for the kids. I will tell you, it was adorable. They are so cute. Oh my God, they're just so cute. And my daughter has been begging me for a hoverboard thingy, so I got her that. I got her the one that is safest for medium-sized children. And then I held her hands while she attempted to balance on it. It was very cute. Let's see. Again, remember, subscribe. If you're going to subscribe, I'm seeing a lot of people asking about subscribing. Remember, code DW50, that runs out in like 3 hours, and then you're done. Then you miss out on 50%. What is my opinion on black Hebrew Israelites? They have no relationship with Hebrew or Israelites, so that's pretty much my opinion. I see no evidence that they are a lost tribe. I see no evidence they know anything about Hebrew. I see no evidence they know anything about the Bible. They actually seem like a radical group of kooky anti-Semites. Protectionism or free trade? Free trade. Now, that does not mean that you, as a free trader, have to abide by giving away the store to China. What I mean by that is that for security reasons, there are good reasons sometimes to put security-based restrictions on trade. For example, we had security-based restrictions on trade with the Soviet Union for decades. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. With that said, generally speaking, free trade benefits the people who engage in it. And denying people the ability to trade freely is a restriction of their economic rights. And you should have a damn good excuse for that, other than you wish to benefit this group at the expense of this group. Pineapple on pizza. Believe it or not, yes, but I'm going to go even worse. Pineapple and jalapeno on pizza. Let's see. When is the next Daily Wire backstage? It is happening, let's see, next week. So stay tuned for that. What is my opinion on Billy Joel? Not a huge Billy Joel guy. Let's see. What are my thoughts on urban planning and zoning? So, I believe that local communities should have an awful lot of ability to regulate the way that their lives are lived. I think that there are differences in how communities should be able to create the living conditions under which they live. So at a national level, I think the restrictions ought to be very libertarian. Very, very few restrictions at the national level, simply because you have very little in common with the people you live with at the national level. However, in your local community where you live, having a broad group of people who wish to have restrictions on, for example, not allowing a giant commercial building to be built next door to a bunch of residential housing, that makes some sense to me. So I'm not anti-zoning in the same way that many other people are. I will say that I think a lot of zoning laws are badly motivated. I think a lot of zoning laws are counterproductive in terms of allowing for new development and allowing for more housing to be built. But as a person who lives in a solely residential area, I would not want somebody opening up a 7-Eleven next door. And so the baseline idea that there should be something terrible about zoning is, I think, quite silly. People get to living in communities that people like to live in is a right to. There is such a thing as a communal right when it comes to living in the sort of community that shapes how you live, because there is in fact an interplay between the community where you live and how you live as an individual. You need institutions in order to live the way that you want to live, right? If you want to live in a nice suburban area where you don't have people who are doing drugs on the street, that is going to require some zoning. If you don't want to have a porn shop next door, that requires some zoning, right? All of this stuff is perfectly legit. Kamala and Pete 2024. When you say we can do it, I'm just wondering, who is the we here? Is that like we Republicans? If we can make Kamala and Pete happen 2024, I promise you, I'm into it. I love it. I think that's great. If we're talking like Democrats want Kamala and Pete 2024, man, enjoy. Seriously, like that'd be great. I hope you love it. Jay Stormy says, my wife and I are moving from Utah to Florida next year because of the cost of living. Any advice on how to get ready for the move? You're going to basically just ditch all of your winter gear. Your winter gear is no longer relevant. That is rule number one. I'm not sure that I've worn a heavy jacket here one time in the entire time we've lived here for over a year. Let's see. Somebody's asking if DeSantis ran for president in 2024, who would be a good running mate? Tom Cotton from Arkansas. Tim Scott, maybe. Again, your periodic reminder, because we're doing something special tonight. If you wish to get a membership for half off, DW50, time is running out. Hans says, Ben, do you have any thoughts on the increase of talk around splitting the country? Do I think that's a realistic solution? It seems to me not particularly realistic, because there's still an interest in, it depends who's doing the splitting. If California wanted to split off from a Republican government, I think there's a better shot that that's realistic than if Texas and Florida want to split off from a Democratic government, simply because the Democrats are never going to allow those resource-rich states to simply leave. And exactly who gets to leave with the 1.2 million person federal army and the attendant nuclear weapons exactly? More likely, what you see is a devolution of authority to the local and state level, which is what the founders proposed in the first place. Why do I hate vaccines and mask mandates? I like vaccines. I don't like vaccine mandates because I think that they are a violation of your ability to make choices about your own life. And I also think that they are unnecessary given the fact that the vaccines are effective against hospitalization and death. And we are not going to reach herd immunity. That is the lesson of Delta. There is no herd immunity in the future at all. It is going to become endemic. So that means that the belief that you require a vaccine mandate is foolish. What kind of cars do I have? Nothing fancy. I have family cars. Do I ever plan to speak at Clemson University? I believe I've spoken at Clemson in the past. If not, I'd be happy to speak at Clemson. So I think the educational system needs a change. It needs a massive change because the educational system is a massive boondoggle. The educational system is largely designed for credentialism. It is not designed toward educating people toward a career. And unfortunately, it's a way of getting people hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt while providing them really no upward trajectory in many cases. There's a recent study that came out regarding the degrees and whether you are likely to actually out-earn the cost of a degree. And about 1/3 of people who are currently in the degree program who graduate are not going to out-earn the cost of the degree. That is not counting all of the other people who drop out, who obviously aren't even going to receive the degree. Let's see. Keegan says, I'm 15 and broke. How can I help? I'll just stay in school and do your best and get good grades. And then fight the man. Fight the system. Was Speechless better than the authoritarian moment? No, nothing Michael Mills has ever done will ever be as good as anything I do. The worst thing I do will be better than the best thing that Michael Mills ever does. That is the answer. Would I ever consider running for office? Why or why not? Okay, the why not is really easy because then you actually have to be a politician, which sucks. You have to spend a lot of time raising money. You have to hang out with other politicians, and you have to compromise your principles. That's literally the job. I'm not blaming people who take the job, but that is the job. Why? Because sometimes you can make an awful lot of difference. Would I do it right now? Absolutely not. You know, if there might be a point when I do it. Like, here's the good news. Average age of people who are running for president now is like, I don't know, 89. I'm 37, so I have about 5 decades to make up my mind. How can I convince people from other states that Florida is good and not just a place for crazy people? Okay, the reason that people think that Florida is a place for crazy people is because Florida actually has excellent transparency laws. So Florida does a really good job reporting all of its crime stories. And so that's why you see a lot of Florida Man says, okay, Florida Man does this. Okay, Florida Man is just every person in every state. If you had Vermont with its good sort of number one, high population, but number two, transparency rules with regard to reporting, you get a bunch of crazy Vermont Man stories as well. And yeah, we have a lot of crazy Florida people here. That is true. What is my favorite band? The one that I end up playing, it's varied for a while. I will say right now, my kids are very into they're into some of the kind of newfangled Jewish music, so the Mordechai Shapiro, the Shweki. But I'm going to go, all-time classics. I'm gonna go like Doobie Brothers. I really enjoy Doobie Brothers. I was indoctrinated by my parents into Doobie Brothers. How much can I bench? I've had this question before. I believe that so again, I don't really bench very often. I think my personal max is like 205, or it was 205 when I was doing it a little more often. But I don't know what it would be today. I'm more of a do a lot of pull-up guys as opposed to bench a lot. Whenever I give numbers on how I work out, what's funny is it always breaks down into 2 categories. People who are like, you suck and you're really weak, and people are like, that's kind of impressive. And the answer is probably in between. It's not all that impressive, and I'm not super crappy at it, but I'm not like super great at it either. What is my favorite food? Ravioli. Ravioli is the greatest of all foods. Ravioli is unbelievable. It is literally a noodle that is filled with something delicious. Why are we doing this on YouTube today? We're doing this on YouTube today as kind of a favor to all of our fans, because we have a lot of people out there who watch the show every single day and they never get to see what an all access is like. And as I mentioned, I'm like Joe Biden here, I'm like falling apart. As I mentioned earlier, if you like this sort of stuff, if you want better access to see what it's like behind the scenes here at Daily Wire and hang out with us, then you should go become an all access member right now. DW50 is the code. Click on the link, open a new tab, and then get that DW50 code, and you can get a membership right now for 50% off, by the way. Do I like Eitan Katz's music? Yeah, I do. I enjoy Eitan's music. He was actually a high school classmate of mine. I'm on one of his early albums. What about the Maxwell trial? I haven't seen any revelations yet. If I see any revelations, I'll be more than happy to report upon them. What are my thoughts on Hassan Piker? I don't have lots of thoughts on Hassan Piker. I did a segment on him fairly recently. I have to say that I haven't found his arguments all that impressive. I mean, he's built himself a nice following, and I find it ironic that he's able to be this open socialist who's constantly making excuses for expending extraordinary amounts of money on himself. That seems to be one of the nice things about socialists. Even Stalin had a dasha. How tall am I? I am 5'9", as proved in my last speech when a person actually got up in the audience, asked how tall I was, told me I was 5'5". I said, how tall are you? He said 5'9". I said, come on up here. You can go watch the clip. It was pretty funny. Ben, favorite author? Favorite fiction author? Like all around, probably Mark Twain. But you'd have to go by individual books. I like a lot of Steinbeck. I like a lot of American authors. Love Dostoevsky on the Russian side. Man, I do like Ray Bradbury a lot. I think he's underrated. He's actually so popular that he's become underrated. I can tell you what's on my nightstand right now in terms of reading. So I've been reading a lot of philosophy recently. So just read some Robert George, read some Joseph Raz, reading some Michael Oakeshott. I've been reading on the sports side. I just read a great book by Joe Posnanski about the top 100 players in baseball history, which is super fun. I am reading on the fiction side a sci-fi book that the name escapes me. I think it's called Atopia. It was recommended by a friend of the family, and another one by Robin Hobb. Is that the name of the person? So some fantasy kind of stuff. And then I have Anthony Doerr's new book, but that thing is like a book. It's like a doorstop. That thing. It's like, no pun intended. It's this thick, and so it takes a long. It takes a major commitment to start on that one. What do I order at Taco Bell? The water, since nothing is kosher. How old am I? I am 37 years old. Who is the worst president ever and why? Joe Biden is making a real case for it. I mean, I'd be hard-pressed not to go Woodrow Wilson because he did begin the administrative state. It was under Woodrow Wilson we began to ramp up the income tax. We entered World War I, which may or may not have been a good decision. I think probably a bad decision, and or at least arguably a bad decision. And we also put in place sedition acts to target political opponents. And he was a massive racist who helped to reinstate and forward segregation. So you're hard-pressed to overcome Woodrow Wilson in terms of terrible presidents. Other candidates for worst presidents ever, usually they include James Buchanan. Honestly, a little unfair to Buchanan because we were headed for civil war before Buchanan. And that's not to say he was a good president. He wasn't. But was he like the worst ever? I have doubts. I think probably the short list goes like Biden, Obama, Carter, Wilson. I think Wilson is the pretty good consensus pick. FDR, LBJ has to be up there, aside from the Civil Rights Act, which, granted, major thing in his favor, at least except for the provisions dealing with private businesses, which I had serious reservations about. The rest of his tenure was just a garbage heap. Do I have a favorite podcast that I listen to? So I listen to a couple of podcasts that review shows like Succession, which I have been enjoying. I will say that I'm enjoying Succession. And other podcasts I listen to, let's see, I'll tell you right now. So I enjoy the commentary podcast. I'm talking aside from our typical Daily Wire podcast. I enjoy the commentary podcast. I listen to the Rewatchables. The Sub Beacon podcast is fun. Glenn Lowry has a fun podcast. Barry Weiss, her podcast is really fun. That's aside from all the stuff we do, like Morning Wire or Walsh or Candace, or I'm not going to mention Knowles because I'm not sure I enjoy that one. Do I believe that people outside the faith of Judaism can reach heaven? Of course. So Judaism is a religion that says that you can reach heaven without having to be Jewish. The basic rules are that you have to. They're basically 7 rules. They're called the Noahide laws under Judaism, and people who are not Jewish can get to heaven if they fulfill these 7 basic rules, and they are very basic. It's things like no blasphemy, established courts of law, no murder, no sexual peccadillos or sexual sins, no thieving, i.e. kidnapping. You have to establish courts of law, and no eating the flesh of a living animal. Those are the 7. If you do that, you are good to go. So that's a pretty low baseline, I feel like. No Crowder? I mean, well, I don't know why you came here if you're looking for Crowder. If you want to see a crazy person who's randomly wrestling a homeless guy, then head on over to Crowder's channel. Do I ever feel pressured to compromise on my morals in my profession? Not really. I picked this profession specifically because I get to talk about my morals all the time, which is fun. One of the reasons why I think I might have trouble going into practical politics. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be a moral person and be in practical politics. I think you just have to acknowledge openly that when you are making a compromise, you are in fact straying from particular principles. Again, your reminder every 10 minutes, we do this every single week, like multiple times a week. All of our hosts will get together with you. Every single night, we have one of our hosts who gets together with you, and you become an all-access member at Daily Wire. All you have to do is head on over to Daily Wire right now. This is the best deal of the year. It is today, Cyber Monday. It ends in like 2.5 hours. So this is your last chance. Code DW50 for 50% off. Can I give you advice on how to debate? Well, I'm excited to see you. I'm 13 and very interested in politics. Appreciate that. Honestly, the biggest thing about debating is that you have to actually listen to what the other person is saying. Most people spend so much time when they are debating trying to think of what they say next that they forget to actually listen to what the person is saying. Usually the person you're talking to gives you the ammunition that you require in order to debunk the argument or in order to take their argument and examine it more closely. When you examine the premises that people use in their arguments, that is usually the best way to get to the deepest part of the argument and the part that's the most interesting as well. So you really have to sit and listen to what the other person is saying. It's a skill that has to be cultivated. My thoughts on a news platform that can actually be trusted? Honestly, I think Daily Wire is pretty good at this. We are conservative, but we make pretty clear what's fact and what's opinion. Chris says, I notice you don't show your family in posts. Have you made a strategic effort to protect your family from the spotlight? Abso-frickin-lutely. So there are thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures of me online. My parents and my kids and my wife, we're constantly going out to different places. But when people ask if they can take pictures, and thank God, virtually all the time when people approach, they're very nice. I always say, the people will say, your kids can be in the picture. I'll always be like, nope, my kids are not in the picture. So my kids are not public figures. My wife is not a public figure. All you need to know about her is that she is a doctor and also supremely hot. Those are really the 2 facts that I think are relevant. And other than that, yeah, I mean, you'll get all the other relevant facts about my kids that I feel like telling you about as aspects of their personality, but they are not public figures. What is my opinion on Austrian economics? I consider myself a devotee of Viennese economics, like Friedrich Hayek and Ludwig von Mises. I tend to be more Austrian in my approach to economics than Chicago school. What do I think of the disabled dislike button on YouTube? Yeah, I don't understand why. It's weird. I don't really think that makes a lot of sense. It's confusing to me. What happens if you don't like something? Can I make gaming videos? First, I would have to learn what a game is and how to play one. Again, I'm like an 80-year-old man. I live in South Florida, and I don't play video games. The Hopeful Astronaut says, I'm 14, want to become an entrepreneur. What advice do you have? You seem to be pretty good at it. My first advice is that you just have to jump in and try things. And you're going to fail a lot, but every time you fail, you learn. So my business partner, Jeremy Boring, and I, this is like the 3rd business that we started. So we started a business where he was making videos for folks. You can go back and watch them. He was making these scribing videos for encounter videos. Then he was working with PragerU. Then he had something called Declaration Entertainment. That predated me, but I helped him out with it a little bit. Then we were at Truth Revolt. And then finally we did Daily Wire. You learn more about your business. You learn what you're good at. You learn what your business partners are good at. You learn what the market wants. And when you do all of that, then you can eventually create a product that is fit for market. And you learn how to handle yourself too. Do I ever carry a gun? If not, what do you think about it? I'm not going to tell you whether I carry a gun. I will just say that I'm surrounded by people with guns at all times, which may or may not include me. Would I debate AOC? I don't know. Last time I asked about it, she accused me of catcalling her, which was a weird flex by her, considering that I'm an Orthodox Jew. Is Taiwan a country? Yes, Taiwan is a country, and it is not China. Do I invest in crypto? Yes. I do have some money invested in crypto. A not insignificant amount of money invested in crypto, some in Bitcoin and some in Ethereum, and I have done unbelievably well on it. I am a fan of crypto. What are my thoughts on climate change? Are humans damaging to our Earth's climate? Yes, climate change is happening. Yes, human activity contributes to global warming. No, it's not a crisis. No, we shouldn't be panicking. No, we shouldn't destroy the global economy because we are afraid that over the course of the next 100 years, there's going to be some change in the climate. That's the short answer. Human beings are great at adaptation and really terrible at mitigation, meaning that we are very good at adapting to changing circumstance. We are not particularly good at developing technologies, not on the basis of market fundamentals and competitive economics, but on the basis of, I wish that we had a product that did X, even if it was super expensive, and we got rid of our lifestyles, and we all went back to the forests. That ain't gonna happen. Get over it. Thoughts on hockey. So, I love hockey. It's super fun. I just didn't grow up with it. I didn't spend a lot of time with it, so it doesn't come naturally to me. I wish I were more into it. My son's 5, so maybe I can get him into it. Steve says, hey Ben, would you ever interview Kyle Rittenhouse and have him on the show? Yeah, why not? Let's see. Who are the best presidents of all time? Washington, Lincoln, Coolidge, Reagan. I think the list of really good presidents is very, very short. Other than that, I did do a presidential ranking list at one point, but I think that there are really only 2 that are clear A's, and then you have a couple of B's, and B's are like Coolidge and Reagan, and then you have a crap load of C's. And in the C's, you have people like Harry Truman and George W. Bush and maybe Trump. What was weird about Trump is that Trump is like on policy a B to maybe an A- on some stuff, and on rhetoric he was just a complete disaster, and it cost him his reelection. And I understand there's so many people who love all the stuff that Trump had to say, and listen, I loved some of it too. Some of it was hysterically funny. There's never been a funnier human being who's been president of the United States, that's for sure. But the fact that he couldn't keep his mouth shut is why he was not reelected, and that is devastating for the country. It's devastating for his agenda, and honestly, it's a real problem. Like 1 ounce of ability to use the filter between his brain and his mouth, and he would still be president of the United States. Teddy Roosevelt. I'm not a huge Teddy Roosevelt fan. I'm going to put Teddy in that C category. I don't think that Teddy was a great president. His trust busting was not good. His progressive view toward administrative government was not good. Not a huge Teddy fan. What is the behind the uptick in organized group shoplifting? The uptick is specifically because of the lack of policing of crime. Period. End of story. If you tell people you're not going to prosecute shoplifting, it turns out they are going to shoplift. And they're going to exploit holes in the market, obviously. Aaron says, do I know who Jordan Peterson is? What do I think of his opinions and political affiliation? Jordan and I are friends. You should check out the multiple interviews that we've done with one another. I think Jordan is wonderful. I think he does a lot of terrific work for the world, and particularly for young men who are looking for guidance. DeSantis or Trump 2024? I've said before, DeSantis. I think that he's an extraordinarily capable chief executive of the state. I think that he's done a wonderful job here in the state of Florida. I think he is very militant when it comes to the media, and he knows his stuff inside and out. Do I play piano? I do not. At least not beyond the first few bars of the Moonlight Sonata. Have I ever been to Buffalo, New York? Yes, I have, actually. Actually, good Buffalo story. Okay, so my wife and I, we visited Buffalo, and this is right after we were engaged. And we visited Buffalo, New York to visit Niagara Falls. And it was the dead of winter. This was a mistake. We went like right around New Year's. And it is damned cold. It is so cold in Buffalo at that time of year. So we stay at this hotel. And and at this hotel, there is a person behind the counter. It's like a Holiday Inn. Yeah, we didn't have tons of money at that point. We stayed at this Holiday Inn. And the person behind the counter is like, would you like a limousine to Niagara Falls? We're like, sure. Sounds great. So we go, we kind of go dump our stuff. And then the limousine shows up. And the limousine is obviously somebody who gives a kickback to the guy at the front desk, because the person who drives up is this bizarre-looking, seedy character driving a white limousine from probably 1975 with a red velvet interior upon which many dirty deeds have likely been done. And we get into this limousine, and we are in Buffalo, and we have no food, like none. And the only food that we have is a bag of bagel chips that we picked up at the airport. We're sitting there, and we're munching on our bag of bagel chips, which is our sole sustenance in Buffalo, New York, in the dead of winter. And this guy turns around, and he goes, "Can I have some of those?" And we're like, "We're in the middle of nowhere. We don't know who you are, and we have no alternative car available." So we're like, "Okay." He starts munching on our bagel chips. So things are already very uncomfortable. Then he says, "So, you guys just got engaged?" We're like, "Yep." And we're really excited about it. He's like, "Well, let me just tell you. I've been married 6 times. Like, okay. He goes, "Well, let me just tell you. As a man who's been married 6 times, there's only one thing, one piece of advice I would give you. Keep the spark alive." And then we got out of the car, and he says, "Do you want me to stick around, take you back?" And we're like, "No, I think we will find our own way back. Thank you, sir. Goodbye." And to this day, my wife and I call that guy the mayor of Buffalo. Can we get a gun show? You already missed it. Again, if you want the gun show on a regular basis, you got to be. It's like OnlyFans over there at All Access, except with me wearing lots of layers of clothing and occasionally flexing my biceps. What is my favorite movie of all time? Probably The Lives of Others. Love The Lives of Others. By the way, I started Wheel of Time. You guys started Wheel of Time yet? I'm enjoying Wheel of Time. I like it. Although I do love the sort of randomly woke inserts. Those are kind of funny. It's like, oh yeah, a threesome. Okay, that's kind of a weird reference in episode 4. Strange. You know, there's like these kind of weird little asides where you're like, I feel like that's not super in the spirit of the book, but okay, all right, I guess. I do take TV recommendations from our crowd at All Access, by the way. And again, your reminder, DW50 is the code. Head on over to our subscribe page and get your 50% off deal today. It is now 2.5 hours until that is over for the year. What is my favorite Nolan movie? Someone says Inception. No. So I am the rare person who says Interstellar. I love Interstellar. I think Interstellar is great. I know. But it's a fantastic, fantastic score. Excuse me. My kids are all sick right now, by the way. Like all 3 of them. All 3 of them are home from school. So we had this Thanksgiving weekend. It was just great. Spent a lot of time with the kids. And then, as all parents know, with small children, you have this long Thanksgiving weekend, spend tons of time with the kids, and then you're like, you know what? It's time for me to go back to work, and the kids go back to school. So we were ready to go. Sunday afternoon, all 3 are sick. And so all 3 of them are home today. And it was daddy duty after work today. So, yeah. Favorite character in Star Wars? Probably Obi-Wan. Although, I do, for my kids, all of the impressions of the different voices. You will learn. Little Yoda there for y'all. Got some Chewbacca. Which also, it's good to get these voices, sort of good to go, because they come in handy. Like when we had last year the debates between Biden and Trump, and I said that it was Chewbacca versus the Swedish Chef, which it kind of was. It was like Trump's like, and then you'd have Biden be like, Misa. As we get later at night, the voices get more and more bizarre, by the way. I do take requests on All Access for those for the bizarre voices. Favorite Thomas Sowell book? Disparity and Discrimination is a really good one. What is Knowledge and Decisions is pretty fantastic. Do I like Steven Crowder? Yes, we are friends. Ben doing Star Wars noise is the best. Oh, you have no idea. Luke. I do like your reactions where you guys randomly just realize that this is all bizarre. Yes, it is. Do the cheek singing thing again. No. I'm going to save that for behind the paywall. You're going to have to access that. That is a special life skill. I can actually play tunes upon my cheeks. I'll just give you a hint of it. Okay, here's a little bit of a hint. See if you can name that tune. You ready? Is this a Vincero watch? This is not a Vincero watch. As I mentioned before, this is the Omega Bond watch. How do I find the time to do all of these things? Which things? Learn to play music on my cheeks. It comes naturally. It's a life skill. What can I say? Do I imagine that bacon tastes good? I imagine so. People love it. Yeah, you guys got it. Smoke on the water. All right. Let's see. WAP. No, you can't. See, this is the thing about WAP. There's no way to actually do the tune of WAP because it has no tune. Okay. Where is my X chair? It's at the office. Does it look like the office to you? This is like one of my bedrooms. All my kids are asleep. Are my hands bigger than Marco Ruby's? Little Marco, unbelievable, tiny hands, little Marco. You know what they say. How do you come out to your girlfriend as a conservative? You say that you want to spend the rest of your life being a monogamous religious person who lives a responsible lifestyle. And then you see how she takes that. Favorite Mexican food? Burritos are spectacular. Chicken tacos are pretty awesome too. Beef tacos, it's great. Do I ever get tired of talking? Absolutely. I'm so tired of me right now, I can't even tell you. But we're here together, man. We will suffer through this thing together. We will get through it. Do I use Raycons? I do. I do use Raycons. RAYCON/Ben. Go check it out right now. What are my views on the war on drugs? Largely ineffective. I think the war on drugs has been rather a large failure, and while I understand that the war on hard drugs might be necessary, the war on marijuana has obviously been a gigantic failure. Just because I want government to be able to do a thing doesn't mean the government's actually capable of doing a thing. What is a dish my wife makes that I secretly dislike? Well, if I answer this question, and nothing secret about it. So my wife makes a couple of dishes that the kids really like, but that I just am not a huge fan of. She makes these kind of turmeric-based lima beans, and they're actually pretty good, but I'm a little allergic to them. My wife doesn't. My wife's pretty great in the sense that, well, in most senses, but also the sense where if I tell her I don't like a particular food, she just won't repeat making it. Do I like Sinatra? I love Sinatra. Favorite character in Lord of the Rings? Strider. How's Hanukkah been so far? It's been fantastic. Thank you for asking. My kids are super into it this year. Again, my wife got them Happy Hanukkah PJs. It's so cute tonight. Oh my gosh. And they've really been enjoying it. They know the whole story of Hanukkah. South Florida is a great place to celebrate Hanukkah. There's stuff going on nearly all the time. So it's super fun. And also, I will say, we here at the Shapiro household take Kamala Harris's perspective on Hanukkah extraordinarily seriously. I definitely need to hear from her. I think that Kamala Harris has the best perspective on Hanukkah because, of course, she's married to a Jewish guy, and her perspective is joy and light and light and joy. And in the middle of that one, just kind of turn into Biden. List of all-time people I want to debate. I've offered Bernie. I've offered AOC. Kamala for president? No. That'd be silly. Thoughts on Enos Cancer Freedom? I love that he renamed himself Freedom. That's awesome. Did I eat any latkes yet? My wife makes great latkes. I was not a fan of latkes until I met my wife. My wife makes fantastic latkes. They're so good. Next time I'm here, I'll give you guys the recipe. How was my golf game? Not particularly good. Although the last time I played, the last couple holes, I birdied 2 holes in a row. I literally picked up the ball and I walked off the course. I was like, I'm done. Waffles or pancakes? I'll go waffles. It's like a pancake, but it's able to hold things. It's fantastic. It's both useful and delicious. Although a nice thin pancake, you know, like when it's like crispy around the edges with the butter. Man, carbs are just great. Josh says, currently in hospital with pregnant wife. Advice for me, the dad, during labor. Well, first of all, you should be able to take a paternity leave at least 4 times as long as your wife's maternity leave. This is what I've learned from our current Secretary of Transportation. Obviously, you're the one doing the real suffering here. But aside from that, the number one piece of advice, put down your phone. So, first time my wife gave birth, I will say that she was in labor forever. We went in, and she was in labor for like 25 hours. Not hard labor. The hard labor was like 2 hours at the end, but the actual labor was like 25 hours because the water broke. They're like, we have to stay here. We have to take Pitocin, and when I say we, I mean her, because she did all the work. And so for like 25 hours, I'm like, God, I'm so bored. It's so boring, and it is. It's super boring. You're sitting there and you're just waiting for something to happen, and she's sitting there suffering, and so you're like, okay, I'm gonna sit here. I'll do some work, watch some TV, you know, read a book. No. Bad move. Terrible bad move. You are there to suffer along with her. I learned this because by child number 2 and child number 3, I was very present. Now, I will admit, the labors were a lot shorter. By child number 3, it was like a 3-hour labor, and that was great. That was perfect. That's exactly the amount of time that my attention span could take. But it is definitely a thing that you cannot be playing around on your phone. My wife's like, why are you on your phone? I'm like, because nothing's happening. She's like, but I'm giving birth. I'm like, not right now, you're not. She's like, stop arguing with me. I'm literally having your baby. It's like, yeah, that's, you have a point. Can I give Hudson a shout out? Done. Michaela says, I have a film company who tried to reach out to you. We love you. You can try it one more time and let me know that you reached out to me here. Favorite Florida team? I'm going to go with the Marlins because that would make me the only fan of the Florida Marlins. So I'm automatically their best fan. It's like me and Derek Jeter. Keep the faith says, I want that shirt. Well, we have a merch store. Glad you asked. Get your special deals on everything at the merch store. You get special deals if you're a member. But to become a member, code DW50, 50% off. Time is running out. You now have 2 hours and 17 minutes before it's all over for you. Has anyone ever tried to knock off my yarmulke? How does it stand so well? It stays on so well because it has little clips on it. You hear that? That right there is the sound of security. Heaven's security. Clipped Keepas. Little unsolicited ad there for our friends over at Clipped Keepas. Happy birthday to friend Derek. Let's see. Brian wants a shout out. You got it, dude. So I play chess. A little bit. I kind of go through spates of playing chess. So what happens is that I'll do something and it's really fun, and then I'll be like, oh, I really want to get into this. And so I do it for like a few weeks, and then I'm like, do I really have the time to dedicate to getting really good at this? And the answer is no. So I just kind of stay mediocre at it. I feel that way about golf. I feel that way about chess as well. Like, to really get good at it, you have to dedicate extraordinary amounts of time. You have to memorize all of the openings, and you have to know how to counter all of them. And I want to be good at things, but I don't want to dedicate the time to be good at things, so I'd rather just dedicate the time to things that I think are important. Which you know, I guess that's kind of a bad way to be. Maybe I'd enjoy life more if I really dedicated some time to some of this stuff. But honestly, every time I play chess for a long period of time, I'm like, maybe I should really spend a lot of time. You know, I should spend more time reading and writing, frankly. Can I do my Pelosi impression?
Nancy Pelosi? Nancy Pelosi. Well, she's making stock trades right now based on her regulatory strategy. But it's not corrupt because she's a Democrat.
So that's dentures moving around right there. Am I planning on visiting Israel in the near future? Will they let anyone in ever? Ever? It's ridiculous. Have I ever trained in the martial arts? No, I've trained in the hiring people to kill people who threaten me. Have I ever trained in the martial arts? I did a little bit of Krav Maga a few years back. I can't say I got very advanced at it. I really should, is the truth. It seems like a really good skill set. Do I play any instruments besides violin? Not well. Can someone become Jewish, or do you have to be born Jewish? Just curious, don't want to be Jewish. Yeah, you know, that's good, because I'd have to try to dissuade you. That's actually the Jewish law. I'm not allowed to try and recruit you to Judaism. But yes, you can convert to Judaism. Why Florida over Texas? The Jewish life here is more well established, I'll say. That's a big thing. Do I own Bitcoin? Yeah, as I said earlier. Favorite gun? I do have a rifle from BCM, from Bravo Company Manufacturing. That is a very nice piece. So I think crypto will take over. I think that centralized governments will work their hardest to prevent crypto from taking over. And because of that, I think it's going to end up as more of a repository of value, or a creative way of, for example, doing contracts, than it's going to be like the main method of people transferring money across, the economy. Lovely windows you have there. Thank you. It is a great window. Do I speak Hebrew? Yes, but not amazingly well. Am I, let's see, former Democrat says, I made you become a Republican. I appreciate that. Thank you. A lot of requests for the gun show. Again, you missed it. It was very brief tonight. You have to be a member in order to make that happen. Greta Thunberg impression. Go.
How dare you? How dare you? You adults, and the way that you attempt to run our lives. You don't care. You don't care. You pretend to care, but you don't care. Let me dance. Dance to Rick Astley. I'm going to dance to Rick. I don't know things, but I was once young, even though already over 18.
Again, that was the rule. Okay, once she was 18, I can do my impression of her as much as I damn well please. What is my favorite sport to watch? In person, baseball, on TV? Still basketball, although I have to say I haven't watched basketball really since the BLM of it. Will I ever come to New Jersey to speak? Maybe. Do I talk to my kids about politics? Occasionally. It's more like a values thing. They'll ask me about values, and then I'll talk to them about values. So if they say things like that they hear at school about Biden, I'll be like, well, let's not talk about Biden. Let's talk about, what he's doing and whether it's good or bad. I think it's more important to teach my kids about that than, Biden as a human. Am I a Mets fan? No, I'm a White Sox fan. What is my second favorite movie? Shapiro. My second favorite movie? The Lord of the Rings trilogy, probably. How much sleep do I get? Not as much as I need. Probably, I'm averaging, I would say, probably about 6.5 to 7 a night. I really need 8. And that's because I'm just going to bed too late. Am I Ashkenazi or Sephardi? I'm Ashkenaz, my wife is Sephardi. I read The Illustrated Man by Bradbury, of course. What is my view on the Nephilim in the book of Bereshit? Okay, so the Nephilim, you'll remember from the book of Genesis, it talks about how this is the days of the Nephilim, the mighty men of yore, basically, and they were cohabitating with the daughters of men, and God didn't like. This is one of the reasons God didn't like things and decided it's flood time. Okay, so I think that this language, the language with regard to the Nephilim, is specifically designed to be a rip on the class-based rulership of the old world. So Nephilim in Hebrew means nafal. It comes from the root of nafal, which means to fall, like they're fallen. The way that rulers were described in ancient literature is as godlike characters. They're literally gods, right? If you read Mesopotamian descriptions of the kings, very often they're described as gods. So I think the idea here in the Bible is the rulers were mistreating the common women, and God didn't like it. So I think that their attempts to kind of turn that into magical, like they're fallen angels and all, I don't think that's right. Have I ever been in the Netherlands? Only for a stopover. I'd like to spend more time there. Favorite story of Moses? I mean, the whole thing's pretty spectacular, isn't it? But the favorite story of Moses, probably, I would say the greatest heroic move of Moses is when he's approached by God after the Jews sin with the golden calf, and God says, you know what, I'm just going to get rid of this nation. I'm going to make a nation out of you. And he says, nope, you made a promise. You're going to keep the promise. It's a pretty incredible moment. When I come to Indiana, of course, I love Indiana. Indiana's great. I would speak Delaware, absolutely. All of these. What are my thoughts on a war with China? I don't think that it's in either country's interest. That doesn't mean that we should be kowtowing to China, that we should be making room for them to be as terrible as they are. Am I an Islamophobe? No, I'm not an Islamophobe. I've said 1,000 times on my program that I do not evaluate people's religions on the basis of their text because I'm not an expert in their texts. What I will do is evaluate how constituents of a particular religion behave. And even then, that is not a referendum on the religion per se. It's a referendum on the group of people who are practicing that particular religion. So we've had many moderate Muslims, Reform Muslims on the program. I've defended the right of, for example, Ilhan Omar, who I think is just a despicable human being, to wear hijab in Congress. I think that as a person who wears weird religious headgear, I'm all in favor of people being able to wear, headgear representing their religion. I failed to see how any of that is Islamophobic. I am across the board terrorism phobic, and I am across the board, complete fundamentalism phobic. So take that as you may. Usually the video people use in defense of the idea that I'm Islamophobic is a video in which I actually just read statistics from Pew Global Research about whether there is a tiny radical Muslim minority or whether a large number of Muslims globally believe radical things. Those are poll statistics. I don't know what to tell you. That is not a referendum on Islam as a religion. It's not a referendum on certain practices of Islam, nor does it make you Islamophobic to cite polls. Of Muslims, by the way. Best book a father could read aside from the Bible. I'm going to go off the board here for the Chip Hilton series. So this is one of my dad's favorite books growing up, and I think it really shaped how he thought about the world, about the nature of virtue and heroism. They're great. See if you can grab the originals by Claire B. Aaron says, I'm able to afford that DW membership now because of the discount. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it. Go get your DW membership right now. Now is the time. Again, you have now 2 hours left. The time is running out. Code DW50 to make magic happen for yourself. Yeah, I see some people recommending Tuttle Twins. I've seen some people here recommending What Would Danny Do? These are all good books for kids, for sure. Top 5 favorite books, you'd really have to go genre by genre. I've been putting out those lists at Daily Wire, by the way. Again, Reader's Pass kind of stuff, so another pitch for the membership right there. How do I explain God to children without confusing them? I explain that God is the being that lies behind the logic of the universe, who loves you and cares about what you do at the same time. How much should I save by moving to Florida? Oh, large quantities of money. Have I ever accidentally eaten pork? I want to say yes. I think maybe I was 8 and I was over at my cousin's house and they were having some sausage on the pizza and I had no idea what it was. Yeah, I remember it being tasty. Favorite pistol? Well, I do have a Smith & Wesson 9mm, so I'll go with that. What is my opinion on oxygen? Pro oxygen. How was Harvard Law School? I enjoyed Harvard Law. I really did. I thought that it was surprisingly open-minded, or at least I found enough professors who were open-minded to have some fun chats and some fun arguments. I really liked it. It's a lot of very high IQ people talking about interesting topics, so long as they're not woke jackasses. What is my favorite biblical story in general? Honestly, the whole tale of Saul and David is just fascinating to me. It's just riveting stuff. The stories, the story of Jacob is really interesting. I love so much of it. It really is quite beautiful. It's quite a beautiful book. Do I believe in intelligent design? Well, if by intelligent design, do I believe that there is a creator of the universe who stands behind natural processes? Yes. Have I ever reached a professional level with the violin? It depends what you mean by professional. Could I play like last chair in a decent orchestra? Probably. Would I be like the guy who is soloing with the orchestra? No. I gave it up too early for that. Favorite Marx Brothers movies? Duck Soup or Night at the Opera? My kids were watching some Marx Brothers today. It's pretty great. Okay, like 2 more questions, and then to bed I must go. Will I do a debate with Michael Knowles on libertarianism? That'd be a weird debate considering that I'm not fully libertarian. So I'm sort of libertarian in terms of how I think about what I think government is good at and what government is capable of doing on the federal level. On a local level, I'm much more conservative than libertarian. What is the most useless skill I have? Well, it's hard to get more useless than being able to play songs on my cheeks. Whistling really well is a really useless skill. Those ones are probably it. Okay, final question. We'll give an extra. Would I rather act in a new Star Wars movie or a new Lord of the Rings movie? Well, I'll go Lord of the Rings because I think that they've botched Star Wars beyond all recognition. Alrighty, folks. Well, we have reached the end of tonight's Q&A. If you liked this, if you really enjoyed it, go check out the All Access. We do this every week, without fail. You can get that code DW right now, code DW50 for 50% off. Time is running out on that. Best deal of the year. 2 hours left before it expires. It is done tonight, so don't think about it. Just go do it. I promise you'll enjoy it, and help us keep fighting because that's really what we do. Join the fight. Join DW, DW50. Use that code. Click on over and make the magic happen for yourself. Have a wonderful evening and happy Hanukkah.